My name is Josiah Choms. I am currently the managing director of Caverton Helicopters, a subsidiary of Caverton Offshore Support Group. We are based in Lagos and operate all across the Niger Delta and currently also in Cameroon. I am the first of four children. I was born in Jos. I grew up in Zaria. I went to the Ahmadu Bello University Staff School. From there, I went to the Nigerian Military School, the foremost military training institution in the country. And thereafter, I decided to go to the Aviation College in Zaria. And that began my journey in this very fascinating industry. I'm happily married with one wife, and I have a son who's a delight. He's 5 years old, but going on 20. But yeah, and we live in Lagos. Well, aviation is a very important element of any country's economy and development. It's a mode of transportation. People are afraid of it, but actually it is the safest means of transport. Aviation is not only quick, it reduces the world into a very small space. I'm amazed that we haven't fully taken advantage of this important development, global technology. Well, it's a combination of number of factors. The first thing is ignorance. Ignorance in the sense that what you don't know enough about, you tend to be scared of it. And so the more people know about aviation, there are people that will not go anywhere except by air because they are very comfortable with aviation. But the second element, of course, is the unfortunate incidences we've had in our relatively short history with aviation. That has sent a wrong signal. But that can be turned around with more education and with a better safety record that I believe we can establish in this country. I believe it is. Like I just began to talk about accidents that happen around the world. It's not every day you hear there's an accident. The accidents are actually man-made, human errors. We call them human errors in aviation. So oftentimes it's not the aircraft itself that is the issue. It's the humans that interact with the equipment that makes it appear unsafe. The technology is so robust that almost everything that is on board, that is installed on an aircraft, has a backup and a backup and a backup, including two pilots. We don't need two pilots to fly. We'll have two pilots flying an airplane all the time. And so because of that redundancy, it is actually safer. Well, first of all, I grew up in Zaria, and there was an aviation college in Zaria. I just began to think, okay, this is an area of interest that I could pursue. I want to be an army officer. I want to be a general in the army. And then when this interest in aviation started, I said, well, maybe I should, and my commandant actually, of blessed memory now, Colonel Daramola, actually said, why don't you go to the academy still and then go to the Air Force? And I said, well, I don't know. At the time, the Air Force really wasn't flying that much. I began to do my own research to look at how we could go into civil aviation. So I began to write schools abroad. And today, officers in the Army who are my classmates say that the first time they saw a letter from outside Nigeria was a letter that was addressed to me because I was writing all kinds of schools looking for information, even though I didn't have the money. At the time then, I decided to look at the Nigerian Civil Aviation College, and there at the time was 14,000 naira for the entire course. Now, there was no way in the world my parents could provide 14,000 naira for my education. I was very fortunate. I got a state scholarship. My state government, after a competitive bidding process, was selected me, and I was sponsored. And so just around that time, I was just finishing the military school, and the course had already started, SP21. And so what was available was the engineering course. So I ended up going to the avionics course, and that turned out to be a very useful experience. So that's how I started. Yes, it is. There are many opportunities that are out there. You just have to search for them. Right now, companies are training people. If you apply to Zaria, you could get a federal government scholarship. Some state governments are sponsoring people. Many of the old national companies are needing pilots now. But you see, that is exactly, again, one of the key reasons why we must grow the industry. Because the more airlines you have, the more need there will be for pilots. And the more the need for pilots or for airlines to now invest in pilot training. And so, yes, you might not have the money, but you might have the aptitude. But because you are required, you and the airlines now become a match. And the school can do that matching. And so, a country that has 170 million people, we do not have nearly the number of airlines and airplanes flying this country that we ought to have. So it's a very much underdeveloped sector with huge potential for growth. Everything we buy, we import, and that of course requires import duties, and that brings additional cost to the whole thing. The other thing is infrastructure. We have done quite a bit of work in the restructuring of our airports, navigational aids that we need. So those sort of things that enable the industry to grow are the things that we need to really focus on, in addition to having very good airplanes. So when you deal with those sort of challenges, then you are beginning to allow people to be able to access that service, and that facilitates the growth of the industry. At the time when really our dependence on oil has become so much, and we've been talking a lot about, about diversification of the economy. Well, honestly, aviation has the potential to become the second next earner of or contributor to the GDP of Nigerian economy, if really harnessed and the full potential is unleashed. No, not at all. I happen to be someone who has a very, very wide range of interests. My doctorate is actually it's a multidisciplinary study where the focus was on political science, but it was also on economic development and also on theology. And my area of interest was why developing societies are not developing. And so my dissertation was on developing societies with a focus on Nigeria and the issue of corruption and how that is hindering our development as a nation. If you're going to be as busy as I am, it's one of the reasons why you must make your work your passion and your fun at the same time. And so because work is fun, I actually find it a bit easy to cope. I love aviation. I also love to teach. So if I'm not leading my company, I'm not mentoring younger pilots and engineers and providing and interacting with the client, then on my time off, I'm actually often not on time off. I'm delivering a lecture somewhere. That is a huge challenge. I have to confess that they tend to suffer quite a bit because I'm on the road a lot. But I'm very grateful for their support and their understanding, because oftentimes, even when I'm not around, we do Skype. We are always chatting or we're on the phone. But when we are around, then we tend to make it a lot of fun. And so those times are very much cherished. And so we do at least do a couple of travels together as a family. So that is the only way. But in terms of proportion of time, I spend a lot of time at work. So even when I'm at home, I'm working. My advice to any young man or woman in Nigeria, around the world, not just about aviation, but about anything that you decide to do with your life, is to really be very focused. If you're not focused, many distractions will come your way that would ultimately take you away from your destination. So you almost have to be single-minded about the kind of man, the kind of woman that you want to be. If you have a goal, you pursue it with all you have. And I wish you all the very best.
I've known Captain Choms since back our days in the military school, far back as 1986. And Oga Choms has been a shining example. He's been an inspiration to a lot of young people. He's an embodiment of hard work, determination, grit and compassion. Captain Choms established Firm Foundation Academy 10 years ago with just 6 children. The academy is meant for underprivileged children who do not have the means to get an education, or they do not have people to sponsor them. And Captain Choms has been on this journey for 10 years, and today I'm proud to say there are 350 children in the school right now, and a lot more that have benefited from this gesture.